radium that a druggist in the same town had recently discovered. The drug was very expensive to make, but the druggist was charging 10 times what the drug cost him to make. The sick woman's husband, Heinz, went to everyone he knew to borrow the money, but he could get together only half of the cost of the drug. He told the druggist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell it cheaper or let him pay him later. But the druggist said, "No, I discovered the drug and I'm going to make money from it." Desperate, Heinz broke into the man's store to steal the drug for his wife. So you can kind of see the moral ambiguities in, was it right or wrong type thing. So, should Heinz have stolen the drug? Some people say yes, some people say no. Again, there's no clear-cut right or wrong answer. Stealing is wrong. When you think about these types of moral developments, there's several different scales and several different constructs that you have to keep in mind. In a society, stealing is wrong. It goes against the grain of society. It is quote-unquote antisocial behavior. We're going to talk about antisocial behavior in a couple chapters. But it is never okay, or it is never right to steal the drug. That is never the right thing to do. Now, whether or not it is good or bad is a different question entirely. And if you are able to see the distinction between those two, you rank much higher on Kohlberg's scale than someone who cannot. Again, it's all about flexibility. It's all about being able to see the shades of gray. Rigid thinking, although it can have its benefits, does not score very high on Kohlberg's scale. And we'll talk about why here in just a second. Based on the answers that people gave to his questions, Kohlberg proposed that moral development consists of 3 levels, with 2 stages in each level. The first level is the pre-conventional level. This is stages 1 and 2. The second is the conventional, stages 3 and 4, and the post-conventional, stages 5 and 6. The first level, the pre-conventional level, is based primarily on punishments in stage 1 or rewards in stage 2 that come from the external world. So someone in stage 1 might say, no, it's not okay to steal the drug because that person might go to jail. I wouldn't steal the drug because I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to pay the fine. I don't speed because I don't want the ticket, etc. Those are all rewards or punishments. Those are all punishments that come from the outside world. There's no inward directing regulation mechanism of behavior. It's all from outside. Someone in stage 2 says you should not steal the drug because the druggist needs the profit. Now this is kind of an Ayn Randian viewpoint that, the druggist is a person too. And he put his blood, sweat, and tears, his money, his expertise into developing this product. No one's stopping you from doing the exact same thing. The druggist developed it. He should be able to profit and sell his product at a reasonable or unreasonable price. He can charge whatever he wants to. If you don't like it, you don't have to pay it. Go develop your own drug. That's something in stage 2. Then we move to the conventional level. At this level, the individual abides by standards such as those learned from their parents in stage 3 or society's laws in stage 4. Someone in stage 3 might say you should steal the drug because people would expect a good husband to do that. That is something that, is a more family-oriented approach. I learned from, my parents that a husband takes care of his wife, and, that's just a good moral thing to do. Although it might not be the right thing to do, it is the good thing to do. And someone in stage 4 might say it's natural for Heinz to want to save his wife, but the law says it's always wrong to steal. We live in a society, and in that society there are laws, there are rules, and if you choose to live in this society, you choose to abide by the laws. You can't choose which laws you're going to obey and which laws you're going to break. And you are no better or you are not any more special than anyone else. So if everyone went out and started not abiding by the laws, then chaos would reign and we would all suffer. So in a nutshell, Heinz should not have stolen the drug because he's agreed to live in this society, and this society has rules and laws, and he has agreed to follow them. So, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. And then we move into the post-conventional level. At this level, the individual recognizes alternative moral courses, they explore the options, and then they develop a personal moral code. This code reflects the principles generally accepted by the community at stage 5, or it reflects more abstract principles for all of humanity in stage 6. And you can kind of see how this is really looking at all of the shades of gray, and there are no absolutes. As you go, people who are at the pre-conventional level, everything is very cut and dry. Everything is very black and white. As you get to the conventional, and especially at the post-conventional level, things become more shades of gray. Sometimes it's okay to lie. Sometimes it's okay to steal. Sometimes it's even okay to kill. So a lot of these laws and rules of humanity, although they should be abided most of the time, there are certain times when rules are meant to be broken. And anybody with any kind of moral sense or any kind of human sense would know that, watching a person die just because you don't have the money is not right. And that's, someone at stage 5 would say something very, very similar to that. You can't steal a drug because the law obviously doesn't apply to this situation. When you draft laws or whatever, the lawmakers obviously couldn't come up with every kind of situation or scenario that those laws might apply. So obviously, if they had, then they would have not written the law in this manner. So again, laws are meant to be interpreted, and I'll tell it to the judge. That's pretty much why we have judges. This is what judges do all the time. They interpret the laws. And someone in stage 6 would evaluate the alternatives, but recognize that the wife is more important than the law. This, if you want to call it, this is the highest level of attainment, if you will. But it doesn't mean that someone at stage 6 is more moral or a better person than someone at stage 1 or 2. It's just a different way of kind of looking at the world. Someone in stage 6 might evaluate the alternatives, but recognize that, again, the wife is much more important than the law. Who cares that it's illegal? I'm going to save this person's life. If I go to jail, so be it. I'll do it. I'll stand up for what I believe is right, and I'll face the consequences. And the consequences, I'll take my punishment and face the music like a man. And that's kind of how someone at stage 6 might think. Who really cares? I know it's illegal. Doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I know to be right. All right. So moving on to gender development. Let me see how many more pages we have. How much further we go? Oh, we're almost done. Good. All right. So gender development. What does that make you think you are a man or a woman? How do you know? As we go through this section, make sure that you watch the video on David Reimer. It's kind of a very interesting video. It's about a boy, set of twins actually, set of male twins, and one of them, when he was getting circumcised, the surgeon accidentally burned off his penis. So he was raised as a girl. A very, very interesting story, a tragic story, as you can imagine. So as we kind of talk about this, and as you watch that video, kind of keep in the back of your mind this whole nature versus nurture thing, and where we get this sense of idea of ourselves as being male or female or masculine or feminine, and how that goes into, and how fundamental that is to our entire sense of our identity, and how foundational something like gender is. And it's way down at the bottom. It's very, very fundamental to our sense of identity. So your gender refers to the social and psychological aspects of being female or male. It includes not only your biological sex, but also one's understanding of the meaning of gender in one's life. So your sex and your gender are two different things. They are not the same. Your sex is your biology. Do you have a penis? Do you have a vagina? Do you have a Y chromosome or do you have two X chromosomes? That is your sex. Your sex is biological. It is immutable, unfixable. You cannot change that. Your gender can be a little more fluid. Your gender is the psychosocial aspects of your identity. For most of us, most of the time, these two things match up nicely. The body that you have been given, the body that you've been assigned, matches up with your sense of who you see yourself as an individual. But there are certain people who they do not. And they see themselves as not fitting in with the sex that they were assigned at birth. And we're going to talk about transsexualism here, I believe, at the end of this chapter. But people who have transgender disorders feel as though they're trapped in a body of the wrong sex. They think they are male and they are trapped in a female's body, or they think they are female and they're trapped in a male's body, etc. And this is not some kind of sexual fetish or anything like that. We'll get into what each of those are later on down the line. But it is a fundamental developmental aspect of their identity, who they see themselves fundamentally as a person, and their body just does not want to cooperate. So as children grow up, they adopt what are called gender social roles. We're in the next section now. Which involve expectations for how females and males should think, act, and feel. So what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman in our society? These social roles, especially when they apply to things like gender, are very, very socially discrete. What it means to be a man in America, what it means something completely different in Japan, for example, or what it means to be a woman, how a woman should behave, etc. What society expects of women are very, very different in places like, America versus places like Afghanistan, for example. Recent theories predict that children develop what's called a gender schema, there's that word again, based on what is considered appropriate behavior for females and males in their culture. According to gender schema theory, children first decide if an object, activity, or behavior is associated with females or males. They then use this information to decide whether they should learn more about the object, activity, or behavior. So if you're a boy, do boys play with dolls? No. So as a boy, I'm not going to play with a doll. If you're a girl, whatever. And again, times are changing. So, a lot of boys now, I grew up playing with, Star Wars action figures and things like that. And those could be considered dolls. So, things like, gender schema theory, especially, nowadays, here recently, things like gender roles and social expectations are becoming much more fluid. And they're not as, set in stone as they were in, like, say, the 1950s. Gender schemas have at their base a set of cultural guidelines as to how a person should behave, particularly with other people. This is called a social role, and again, social roles are very, very culturally defined. You're going to find different social roles in different cultures across the world, and even different social roles within the same culture. Southern women, stereotypically behave very differently than women from New Jersey, for example. Along these lines, children develop what are called gender stereotypes, which are beliefs and images about males and females that may or may not be true, such as all boys are doctors and all girls are nurses, or all boys are pilots and all girls are stewardesses, whatever. And again, those things are changing as well. Many of these gender stereotypes are false, of course, but research has shown that there are bona fide differences between males and females. You guys can read through these at your leisure. The essence of your masculinity or femininity is a deep-seated personal sense of self as a male or female. This is called your gender identity. And in the David Reimer video, you guys are going to really explore this sense of gender identity and how you know whether you are male or female, where this knowledge comes from. Is it something that's biological, or is it something that perhaps can be taught? Is it something that can perhaps have an environmental influence? Full understanding of gender is said to develop gradually in 3 steps. The first is gender labeling, whereby children understand that they are either boys or girls and label themselves accordingly. I am a boy, and I will do boy things, and you are a girl, and you will do girl things, and never the twain shall meet. Girls have cooties, and boys are dirty, and whatever. I don't know. Second is gender stability, where children begin to understand that gender is stable. Boys grow up to become men, and girls grow up to become women. What I am now is what I will be for the rest of my life. I will not grow up to look like mommy. I will grow up to look like daddy. And little sister Jane over here will not grow up to look like daddy. She will grow up to look like mommy. And then gender constancy, whereby most children understand that maleness and femaleness do not change over situations or according to personal wishes. You can't flip-flop and transition. You are what you are, and that that will stick. Up until recent surgical breakthroughs, that is how much of human society has evolved. You are what you are, and tough titty said the kitty. So gender constancy is kind of a thing where you can't go back and forth, and you can't flip-flop. It might be easier to be a man in this situation, or it might be easier to be a woman. Men make, have an easier world, or it'd be nice to be cool to, I don't know, whatever. That children learn pretty early on that gender is something that is very constant. And finally, gender identity disorder, also called transsexualism, is a psychological dissatisfaction with one's own biological sex, a disturbance in the sense of one's identity as male or female. The primary goal here is not sexual arousal, but rather to live the life of the opposite gender. People with this disorder feel trapped in a body of the wrong sex, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit. They feel their consciousness projects woman, but they are trapped in a man's body, or their consciousness projects, man, and they are trapped in a woman's body. This is not transvestic fetishism. This is not receiving sexual arousal or gratification dressed up as a member of the opposite sex. That's something else all entirely. We'll get into that in the sex and relationships chapter. But this is actually a firm sense of your identity, that aspect of who you fundamentally are. And their sense of their identity does not match up with the body that they have. And that can be a very, very difficult and very, very confusing way to grow up and live your life until you figure out what is going on and what has happened, and you're able to make some changes or whatever that allow you to be more comfortable in your own body. All right, so that is the developmental chapter. I will upload this and get this available to you guys. Give me a few more days to upload the learning chapter, and I will do that. Let me know if you like this format, if you like the video, or if you just want me to just have you guys just read the notes and shoot me emails with questions or whatever. However you guys want to do this is fine. Just let me know. I can keep doing these videos. This is no biggie. But just let me know what you think about this type of format, and if you guys have come up with some other kind of maybe live streaming something, a Zoom or something like that. If you have found anything, then let me know. All right, take care. Be safe. Again, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you guys later. All right, take care.